Hello, this is John from the Fans POV. We are about to go and start the motivational anime panel. I would just like to point out that is Rainbow Dash there on the display screen of the panel host.
How many of you are fans of Homestuck? Okay. I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm not sure if I don't get it because I'm too old. But I don't get it. I just wondered how many of you are fans of it, because I know it's a thing and I don't hate on it. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm saying I don't get it, and I'm trying to figure it out. So I'm trying to get a sense of who likes it and who doesn't.
Have you seen people walking around forums, like black positions?
Oh, anime box. Yeah, like
those are...
Oh, there's the How to Run a Panel.
What's your favorite?
Motivational.
Battery all charged up?
Yeah, that'll last a couple hours. I'll swap batteries between the two panels. Normally you do this before you guys get in the room, but now you get to see all the backstage. Like, this is what we look like before they open the doors.
Where's the power button?
It's in the middle, on the side. Just push it in.
Left or right?
Push the wheel.
No, there's a power button. There's a power symbol on it. No, on the side of the screen. Open the screens behind the screen, in the middle, has a power button on it.
Oh, it says Golden Digital Creator.
Flyer.
Wait, are you recording this?
No.
Huh.
Ernie just told me to run the head cleaner.
Okay.
They're like this side of...
Get in the right half area.
Okay, where is this the boundary?
The four chairs on this side is what I get.
Okay, so is this the boundary?
That's the far left.
Okay, don't go past that.
Oh, it's on.
Alright,
Alright,
we are about ready to begin.
Also, I don't know why Ernie put it
Doing
like
his
all
thing.
the side pop.
Oh, these guys got it covered. Whoa.
Now I point out from the How to Run a Panel panel, never forget your clicker. These things make you look so pro. I was in, not too long ago, I was in Mumbai in India doing a lecture at a convention there. Nothing like this stuff, it was on like stock exchange BS. Nobody has these things, even in the professional, like big money world. If you whip one of these out, you look like a legend.
Most dangerous.
I'm gonna take this PAX badge off for the time being. If you don't mind.
Okay. I'm actually going to sit for a little bit because I'm feeling kind of bleh.
Yeah, Scott's got the PAX pox. Phew.
But while I'm here, it'll be temporarily renamed to Conclave.
Full screen mode. It is 6:11.
Oh, we only lost 11
Is that what you're going to be here for?
Well,
Hey,
that's
let's
what
go.
I'm going to after this.
Yeah, don't you go.
No, you're a regular. After this, I'm bored.
It works.
I'm not being motivated yet.
I'm sure they'll pay you.
Alright, welcome to, I mean,
Scott, entertain them while I set this up.
I was about to say welcome to Paris. What's up? Let's watch funny videos.
Yeah.
Oh, you're setting up no laptop. I would have just used to watch funny videos.
Alright, give me a second.
Oh,
Almost. About 6 people here at Fence Homestuck. I asked them.
I know I was out there adjusting the camera when you said
I don't have any further commentary on that yet.
no, there really isn't anything to say. I can't believe you people are like sitting here patiently. You must really want to see this, right? Oh wow.
We're not very motivated. That's why we're here.
Here's my question. What is the other event that is full?
The lounge.
Oh, I looked at the little thing. It's some over 21 thing.
Oh, the bar?
Oh, Jazz Lounge.
It's like, screw that.
I'll tell you what.
Alright, you're gonna see one final semi-unprofessional thing. This is how we sing. We have all these cameras pointed at us, and a Marant's here to record the audio. That is how I sing it. Alright, so we can do this.
Alright.
Are you ready to stand up? Ready? Ready? Come on. You can do it. Do it, little brother. All right, one last aside while Scott charges the laser. Are any of you familiar with the new children's book, I Want My Hat Back?
I want my hat back.
It's part of the
Okay.
We gave our copy to Jerry, so we don't.
I'll say this. We have a flyer. If you enjoy this at all, we have our flyer here, which is, it has our pack schedule. The Anime Boston schedule would have been on it, but it wasn't finished in time when we had to go to print. But this QR code goes to my YouTube channel. Many of our lectures, from anime cons, from gaming cons, from everything, are on that YouTube channel, including the How to Run a panel that'll go up shortly that these fine gentlemen saw. And aside from this one, we will have the video of Gabe and Tycho from Penny Arcade reading I Want My Hat Back to the audience. It is showing an experience. So without further ado, I should plug in the power. I'm Rip.
I'm Scott.
We're the hosts of Geek Nights, the late night podcast radio show for jerks. How many of you know who we are already? I'm curious.
All right, everyone at PAX knows who we are, so this is good.
So you people who don't know, that is great. Because our trouble is more and more people who know us come to our panels.
And no one who doesn't know us come, and then no new people discover us. See, the way it's supposed to happen is you discover us, you realize we're a bunch of douchebags, and you stop liking us. Right? What we want is we want new people to come in who don't know what to expect, and then we can smash them, right? And then they leave, and then a new batch comes in, right? So like a factory. If we keep getting the same people coming back, that means we're not smashing hard enough. We're not doing a very good job.
Motivational anime. How many of you read the description of what this panel was? Or, say, oh, whoa. So then
You
you know
have to
the
read the
deal.
description of why it comes to this when you could be at the jazz lounge.
Because the trick is to have generic sounding titles. People show up because they're bored. So I have a story to tell. A story about anime called Initial D. Initial D
Oh, yeah.
is a pretty dumb show.
It is the dumbest.
In fact, we watched at the RIT Anime Club about a decade ago. They showed the first 4 episodes at a meeting. There's like 300 of us in the audience.
And they're like, hey, we're gonna watch an anime about race car driving, and I'm like, whoa, this is gonna be dumb. But for some reason, usually, you know, when it was anime club, look at me all unprofessional, just come on.
What are you doing?
Coffee.
Scott, come on!
Hex box. Alright. Okay, usually when it was an anime that we thought was going to be dumb, we skedaddled and we'd go hang out in club space. And we wouldn't actually watch the anime at the anime club. For some reason, when they showed Initial D, we decided to watch the 4 episodes.
Despite the fact that the show looks like this for the most part, but it alternates between those lips and what I can only describe as PlayStation 1 era graphics.
It was pretty awful. I mean, in its day, it wasn't as bad as it is now, but it was still, even in the year like 2000, when
We
the
were like,
PlayStation
whoa.
1 was the hot shit, and the PlayStation 2 was barely even out yet. Like, it was like, oh my god, guys, you could win a PlayStation 2. They just came out, they're sold out, and they have a DVD player in them. Oh my god. You can't afford one of those, like $500.
Yeah, we were watching fan subs on VHS.
So around that time period, Initial D comes out with its PlayStation 1 cars. They were still disgustingly awful. Even
So
then.
we watched the
Not as
first
bad as they are now.
4 episodes, and the 4th episode ends on a cliffhanger. Does the dude win the race? And we're like,
Can't
that
really get
show,
more straightforward than that.
we're like, that show was stupid, whatever. We're walking out, we're home, we're like hanging out in the lounge in our dorm room. And I turn to Scott and I'm like, so do you think he wins?
Like, dude, it's a shonen thing. He wins every single race, just like, you know, in Dragon Ball, they never lose.
And then our other
Good
friend
guys
pipes
win every
in,
single time.
and he's like, but that other guy had a much better car. So about a month goes by, and the Anime Club marathons this show.
Not our decision. Someone else in the anime club was like, you know, they just said, hey, we're gonna have an Initial D marathon, guys. Show up if you want to.
Now, I did not say, hey guys, I'm going to the Initial D marathon. I quietly went to the Initial D marathon to see if he won. And I happened to see all of my friends already at the Initial D marathon, waiting to see if he wins.
He sat there for 2 days at the Initial D marathon.
So what I'd like to do is show a clip from Initial D.
To kill time, so I can cough in the corner.
Not just that, but because this is very illustrative
Illustrated. Depicting.
of what Initial D is, and why I love it, and why I hate it. Now, the thing to remember is that this show, among other things,
Do as we say, don't do as we do. No one should ever see your desktop if you're doing a proper presentation.
has what I can only describe as amazing music. Hey, look at this. Where's full screen?
It's in video. Video. Yeah. There you go.
See if the audio
It's
plays.
not really giving. It's got a white square. What's going on?
I don't know what's going on.
We didn't have time to test our shit.
We're not getting any audio out of it.
He's just like,
Oh my gosh, what's going on here? We're the worst.
Great music.
I will put it in high performance.
check the VLC volume meter. Oh, it's halfway. Make that full way. Okay. Now check the volume meter on the thingy down here. Make that full way.
Up, up, up.
The video's not really working.
No. Ready for this?
Now you gotta do the full screen too. Video full screen.
Oh, you can't till you play
Oh, you
it.
gotta press play first. Then full screen. Can you see anything up there?
No.
It's a white square, man.
White square.
I guess we can use your laptop. Mine must be too slow.
Oh my god. Alright, keep talking on my laptop. Yeah.
Wait, I know what I'll do. Watch this. Watch this.
Drag it into Chrome.
I'm gonna use MPlayer.
SM player just gonna crash you.
It'll work. I got this shit.
Sorry. It's a little laggy.
Yep.
Oh my god. We didn't even get to the good music.
Open it in Media Player Classic.
Oh, it's still playing in the background.
What? Camera back?
Rim,
Huh?
buy a new laptop.
You're the one who told me not to buy a new laptop.
Well, you're not gonna let a stupid tablet, are you? Oh, you're gonna keep that USB stick.
This is what happens when we don't have that half hour in the room to set
Yeah,
up.
we had to show up right before the panel. We didn't have any setup time. We would have fixed all this
So
stuff.
anyway, here's the point of this panel. Motivational anime, they're shows that get you into a thing, but it's a real thing. I mean, Bleach has all this shonen fighting stuff, and it has the same kind of tropes that these shows like Initial D do. You could say they're in the same genre, except shows that are about a real thing will impart some knowledge about the real thing and get you interested in it. I got really interested in cars after I watched Initial D, and I actually started like paying attention and learning about them. Maybe not the best idea. I went through a lot of sets of tires because I lived in the mountains and actually had to drive down a mountain every day to go to work. And I may have been going too fast, I may have been playing Initial D music. But there are some tropes that these anime use to get you into this mode. There's certain things they do. Music is the biggest part of that. Initial D would not even be a worthwhile show if it weren't for the
It's
music.
initially one, right?
Yes, that is in this show. The music is
Good old Windows Media.
something that's about to play right now.
Working, right? On the video. Do we like darkness? It's not that. It's just
Give
initial
him a little
D.
bump.
There's not much to see, guys.
You gave him a little bump. What's gonna happen? You can see this could be a fighting scene in Naruto. Oh, it's on now. Takumi's fury. You can't help but move to this rhythm.
Oh, by the way, their hands are duct taped to the steering wheel. Nothing's crazy like that.
laughs like a fist of the North Star Billy.
My car's like brand new. What's this 80s Civic doing on my end?
The car's going Super Saiyan.
Oh, it's a Corolla.
So you can see, this show pumps you up. It shows you proper nouns and all the jargon. Take all the proper nouns, names of cars, techniques, replace them with fighting techniques, and reanimate this with swords. You couldn't tell.
It's like I didn't give a shit about. I mean, I gave a tiny shit about cars, right? But as much as any guy, right? But not really. You know, I didn't even know downhill racing with illegally modified cars was a thing. But then suddenly I watch this and I'm like, I want to do that. And when I get in my car, I'm downloading that music. Back in those days, that was the golden age of peer-to-peer. I downloaded all that music, right? Napster existed.
So you guys probably don't care what happened, and we can just move on to the next anime example, right? So you actually want to know what happens in this PlayStation 1 looking anime.
You felt this way before, now you feel this way.
Well, it's no, the should be better for that.
I'll let him have this one. Just this one.
Epic fail.
What great lips you got.
Oh no, grab the Pokeball.
Wait for it. Look at that face. I've seen that face in one other anime ever. That was Shoujo Kakume Utena, when she's walking up those stairs.
You guys heading
Their
out?
slides.
Yep. Where you guys going?
It's called Motivational Anime.
See, those guys got the right idea. Get the hell out of here.
So, music is a big part of how these anime get you pumped. That show was dubbed in America, and they replaced all of the music. I won't play it for you because it's awful. With
Initial drive.
Initial D. They replaced it with this sort of like tweeny bopper rap.
It was basically some guy trying to rap in his closet.
It's awful.
And they edited all the races, so instead of just watching what you saw, they would do like 80s special effects, like split the screen in 4 squares, which all show the same picture, like an Andy Warhol painting, but with different colors. Right? And they just totally, it was like, what?
But look at what the show did. It's not just that it's getting you pumped up. It's taking a regular, kind of mundane thing. Like car racing is just a thing, it's a sport. But it glorifies it, it dramatizes it, it adds music to pump you up, and it adds all these little tropes. Like in the show, there's a guy, Itsuki, who is like the foil to Takumi. He's like this kind of like idiot friend. And they have this whole, every race, you can't believe Takumi's gonna win. Oh, he's racing against an F1 car on an F1 track. There's just no way.
He's racing against this SR-71 Blackbird. It's the fastest thing that's ever been made. There's just no way.
It's a god in a car from the heavens.
It's God's space shuttle. I was defeated this time.
I'm not gonna tell you if he wins every race. We're gonna move on, we'll get back to that, but just think about the things that happened. It cut to all those technical discussions. It cut to the wise master who's like, oh, the race is already over. How many samurai anime have you seen where the great master's like, this duel is already over? You lost before you came into the room.
You were 100 years too early to defeat me.
Or I did that shit before I came in the room. So another show, Nodame Cantabile, is a show that does the exact same thing that Initial D does to illegal street racing, to music, specifically to performance. This is a show where instead of saying, oh my god, he's racing the FD San S on Mount Akagi, it's,
oh my god, that's the magical violin something made by Stradivarius. Holy crap.
he's performing Rachmaninoff's second. Oh my god, Rachmaninoff.
No one can play the second. I mean the first, sure, but the second.
And the thing is, the cars, let's go into some detail here. Rachmaninoff, as you learn in the show, and as you might know on the outside for real, is one of the greatest pianists to ever live. And his fingers were abnormally long, which let him play
Abnormally long
chords.
pianist.
I was trying to skip the dick joke.
No, you just can't go back.
So he was able to play chords that normal men cannot play.
His hands were just like the size of King Kong. He could hit like both ends of the piano at once with one pinky finger. Like,
So we have a clip from Nodame Cantabile.
I've never watched this show.
Really?
Honestly.
You've never seen the show.
I know about it, but I haven't watched it.
The manga's pretty good,
genius.
but I would recommend watching the anime.
Is he actually good?
Watch this business.
さあ、楽しい音楽の時間です。
Aw, shit, it's on. Yeah.
well say, it's the FD versus the G6.
At least the hands are better animated than the cars.
So, they play the entire song, it's like 9 minutes long. So the whole show is like that, and it does the same things. It'll cut to a technical description. Oh, he used this kind of chord structure. He's playing this kind of song.
Why is he wearing no shirt?
You don't need to know about music to understand there's drama here.
Okay.
Just like you don't need to know about cars to know there's drama in Initial D.
When you watch it, it makes you want to know about cars, and it makes you want to know about music, and maybe it even makes you want to try to play music, because you want to be that, right? You want to make people go, oh. And it's like you're going, huh? At us. Yes. We can control L from now on.
So, talking about manga for a second. Now, Drops of God is,
Have I read this?
Really? You should all read this
God,
manga.
I can't believe that.
This manga was recognized by some famous wine magazines because it is causing wine sales to go up. It is surprisingly accurate. It is more accurate to wine than, say, Initial D is to cars. Though Initial D is not as inaccurate as you might think.
Right, you know, each different show obviously has a different level of accuracy, right? I was like, Fist of the North Star, very inaccurate. Let's just be honest with ourselves, right? You know, there is no karate you can learn that will make someone explode. I regret this every day. I don't know why we live in such a horrible world, but that's just how it is. Right? Initial D, at least some of the stuff is true, right? It's like you can drift. Drifting isn't really the fastest way to race down the mountain. An 86 probably can't beat a modern car, but confident drivers probably, most of those guys will probably just fall off the cliff and die, but they never show that part. But the music, you know, you can make really good music. The stuff they say about music and Motivational is probably true, but at the Philharmonic, you're not going to make the whole audience go, oh, it's not going to happen. What a beautiful Rachmaninoff. Yeah, it doesn't happen. But Drops of God, when they talk about wine, most of the stuff, they dramatize it, but most of the information about wine is actually 100% correct. And they sort of, I guess, you know, not that I know anything about wine, but it tends to not go towards like controversial things. Like if something was controversial, they say so instead of, you know, so giving you false information.
Look at that decanting. The first sip. I think that's a Cotarone.
So it's like, because you can't, you know, you can hear music in an Cantabile anime, you can see a car race and listen to the music when you watch Initial D. You can't really taste wine in anime or manga or pretty much anything but the wine. So how do they get across the flavor of this expensive wine to the reader that you're never going to drink in your entire life, right? So whenever somebody drinks a wine, there's a frame or two that illustrates, you know, what the wine tastes like, right? So this wine, you know, comes from a place where lots of flowers grow and everything. So the soil is full of, you know, all kinds of like rose smells and things, which makes the wine taste like, it makes the grapes taste like that. You know, this wine tastes like a Queen concert. That's not an exaggeration or modification. That is what's in the manga, right? He's like in the second page, the guy's like, what did you think about when you drank that wine? He's like, I was imagining this rock concert in like the 70s. He's like, was it Queen? He's like, it was. How did you know it?
Now,
It's Freddie Mercury's favorite.
Now there's tropes going on here again. In this manga, he is reluctant. He hates wine because his dad is the wine expert.
Yeah, his dad was the wine god, but now he's dead. So it's this guy, he's never drinking wine in his life, but his dad trained him to be the wine expert.
He made him like eat chalk and eat dirt from different places as a kid and like learn this stuff. In Initial D, his dad forced him from when he was like 12 to drive the stupid car up the mountain to deliver the tofu as fast as he could and not spill the water that the tofu was in the back.
This is not a coincidence, right? It's that same thing, right? You ever read Snow Crash? There's that famous part where it's like every 20-something-year-old dude wishes he could just run away and join a Shaolin temple and become a complete badass. You know, the badass of all badasses. Well, this is that fantasy fulfillment, right? It's like, man, I only wish that my dad trained me in car racing from the time I was 2 and let me drive the car as soon as I could reach the pedals, and I would be the awesomest racer ever. Man, I wish my dad trained me in wine testing without my knowledge, so that way, you know, I could be the greatest wine taster ever. All right? But your dad didn't do that. You had a shitty dad.
It turns out...
My dad didn't train me shit either. It was also shitty dad. Okay.
It turns out that this sort of thing is not merely a common theme in anime and manga. It is almost its own genre in Japan. There are so many anime and so many manga glorifying so many different things.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of sports anime and manga fall into this category, but not all of them, right? And this is an easy thing to fall into, to think that all sports fall into this category, but they don't.
Ideal 21 is not an anime like this. That is not football.
Right. Hajime no Ippo will make you want to get into boxing until you remember, oh right, detached retinas are a thing. The show pays lip service to detached retinas. Like, oh my god, does he have one? Oh my god, I bet he doesn't. No one ever really gets hurt. It doesn't do that, right? It's mostly about the drama of who's going to win and that sort of thing, training hard. But you watch something like Touch. Touch is a baseball anime. It's about baseball, but no, it's not really about the baseball. It's just the baseball team is sort of central to the thing, right? Whereas some other shows, you know, Prince of Tennis, a lot of it is about the tennis, but also about the pretty girls.
Yeah, but it focuses on the tennis. It glorifies the tennis itself. So to back up a second. Cooking Master Bowl. It is set in a fanciful setting during the cooking warring states period of ancient China. And military rank is determined by how good of a chef you are.
This kid's mom was like the best chef.
But the show is literally he will cook the entire meal. And you watch him, he puts the shrimp in the water, and he talks about the oil temperature, and he's flipping it around. But it's so dramatized.
And it's so much better than a real cooking show because there's no way they can mess up or have to waste ingredients. They just draw everything looking beautiful and perfect, right? Not a single bean falls on the ground or anything. It's great. I wish I could cook like that.
I'll cut to some clips at the end. We have clips for many of these shows.
Guilty.
Hikaru no Go, same thing. This is a show where you'll watch a match of Go, even if you don't know the rules of Go, and be very intensely interested in the outcome. And then feel like you know what's going on.
And then you'll go and join the Go Club and start playing Go, and then realize it's really hard, really boring, and then you want to actually play it because you don't have like some god telling you what to do. Because that's what you need to win a Go.
Hopefully, this is a baseball show that does this.
It's actually about baseball. Like you see every pitch of every game. It's long and boring.
Like, how many of you know what a battery is? Battery is a term for a thing in baseball. But people who are fans of baseball don't really know that. That's like the deep baseball knowledge, the non-surface knowledge. Kind of like how if you watch Initial D, you'll start to learn about like what a compressor really does and what a front-wheel drive versus a rear-wheel drive does. You'll learn this surface knowledge. This show shows every freaking pitch of an entire 9-inning baseball game and dramatizes every single one.
Oh, I'm sure it's the curve and the fastball.
Oh,
the curveball, then he's probably going to do
his last 2 pitches per week. He's running out of steam. I don't think he can throw the fastball, and Takuma is coming up in the next round. So there are shows for everything. Akagi and legendary gambler Tetsuya are about gambling, like mahjong.
Specifically Mahjong. The thing with these shows, right, is that it's really hard to dramatize Mahjong, right? Even some, all those other things, right? Race car driving, cooking, these are all things of skill, right? You can, boxing even. It's something you can go practice and be good at and make your hobby. You can make Mahjong your hobby, but it's a game of luck. So how do you show like the guy leveling up? It's like, my dad taught me to play Mahjong. Yeah, my grandpa taught me how to play gin rummy when I was little. That doesn't mean I'm some god of it, because it's a game of luck. It's like, oh man, he taught me how to roll dice. I always roll 6 now, my whole life. It's like, no, that doesn't happen, right? So how do they dramatize legendary game Tetsuya?
Was that not the plot at the end of Maverick with Mel Gibson?
I did not watch Maverick with
You've never seen Maverick?
No.
Well, anyway, here's a scene from Legendary Gambler.
はい、チームは親のてめえは今日だけ勝負は始まらないだろうな。いや、もう勝負を。そして留飲層。
That'd be the equivalent of playing poker and just having a royal flush just in your hand, like BAM!
Yeah, it's not, it's like that guy isn't any better than the other guys except that he cheated to get the hand.
In Akagi, in the first episode, they're playing Mahjong and they're like, oh, he can't win. Mathematically, he's going to lose. And then he wins? And the plot point is, oh, he just cheated! Straight up!
Yeah, but did you see what they did there, right? They had the dramatization, the overreaction to things. I mean, that's not much of an overreaction to someone cheating and getting the perfect hand right away. But, the overreaction, the dramatization, and most importantly, all that jargon, right? Double Yakuman. What's double Yakuman, right? Well, if you watch the show, you learn what that is, which helps you learn about Mahjong. And when you start to learn about something, you become more interested in it. You want to feel, and then suddenly you'll be a Mahjong player and you lose all your money. Right?
So here's one many of you might not be familiar with. It's a manga called Eagle. It's out of print, but you can usually find copies of these. They're these giant, inch-and-a-half thick
There's 3 different ways to find Eagle, right? Number 1, the hardest way, but the best way, is these big black books, and they're numbered blank 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? They're big and black, and you can usually find them in discount bins or old comic shops on the discount old manga rack.
Now, warning: we have talked about this a lot on Geek Nights, and we have I've collected 2 full sets of it. I think we've cleaned out
a lot of sets left.
Every bargain bin from here to Seattle.
Yeah, there's only a few thousand sets out there, so good luck. But that's the cheapest way to get it because it's 5 volumes, the whole thing in English. The second way to get it is they have smaller volumes, right? So they're about 8 thick, and you have to get 20-something of them. You can usually find them, even here, you'll probably be able to find some in the dealer's room. But you're not going to find all of them. You're going to be picking up random numbered ones from all over the place. And maybe if you're ludicrously lucky, you'll fill in the whole thing. I know, it's great. We're telling you about this awesome manga you can never get or read. Maybe you can pirate it, I don't know.
There's scans online.
Yeah, the third way to get it is they actually printed this in actual American-style floppy-ass comic books, if you can find them. Usually when you can't find them, they'll usually be next to all those old Viz, Project A-ko comics and stuff. They'll usually, some dealer will have the full set, and you can just pick up the whole thing and be like, ugh.
So what is this?
Brazilian.
This does to American politics, specifically the 2000 Democratic presidential primary campaign,
And
and then the general election afterward, what Initial D does to car racing. It is extremely accurate, and actually the author came to America and embedded himself with political campaigns. This is super accurate, like inside baseball politics.
Yeah, this guy, who wrote this manga, he came and he followed that election very closely. Like, he was in it, traveling with it, studying it very closely, and then he made the manga about it. And it's like, there's no Hillary, but there's like...
Hillary.
Yeah, Hillary. And it's like the guy who just looks like Al Gore, and he's like, Al Gore. But the thing is, the guy running for the election isn't Al Gore. The guy running for the election is this...
Well, this is an alternate history. It is actually a very interesting representation of what would have happened if Al Gore had had a contender against him in the Democratic primaries. And they replaced the Republicans with basically John McCain, the astronaut.
Yeah, John McCain / Buzz Aldrin is the Republican.
And it literally does the same thing. You read this is better than real American politics. You read this and you're like, well, when this was written, it wasn't that bad yet. But you read this, you're like, I want to join a campaign. I want to be out there canvassing. I want to push the bus with the little old lady that goes and votes and turns the tide. There's a scene of drama in this manga where the guy, Yamaoka, the guy running for president, not Yamaoka, that's different. It is Yamaoka. Running for president, he goes to 3 fancy dinners for different campaign functions.
Well, no, so what happened is, his scheduling staff person, right, messed up the schedule and scheduled and had 3 different dinners on the same night, right? They weren't overlapping, so he could make it to all 3. But it would be a huge faux pas if he showed up at a dinner and didn't eat the dinner.
So the campaign strategy is like, what are we going to do? What's going to happen?
It's this huge suspense over, like, he's got to go to all 3 dinners and clean his plate at all 3. And it's like, oh my God, is he going to barf? And you see him standing there, and he's not nervous at all. He's eating slowly and carefully. And his campaign people are like, oh my God, oh my God.
It keeps cutting. I don't have clips of between him, like, eating and all of his staff watching the monitors live, like,
is he gonna barf?
Look at his stomach. Oh
no! And then he finishes. I'm not spoiling it yet. And it's like, oh my God, he finished. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then the next page, this little girl gives him a giant piece of cake on a plate. And it's like, oh my God!
You get a 2-page spread of this girl. She's like, my charity, whatever organization made this for you, and we'd like you to have it.
Do it for little Timmy, eat the cake. Full dinners with side dishes and salads and everything.
And then it cuts to all the live television cameras from around the world, like pointed at him. And his one staffer just like passes out. This is
I won't tell you whether or not he eats the cake. That's for you to go and dig this up.
So this is not an anime.
No,
or
Jake.
a manga.
No, Jake.
You should watch it though.
You should.
So C.S. Forrester. My God, is that Horatio?
I think it's
C.S. Forrester wrote a number of novels, and among them is the Horatio Hornblower series. Very famous, pulp, like British Navy, Napoleonic War era, very loosely based on the life of Horatio Nelson, who was a real person. And Captain
was a real person.
Andrew Pellew, who is perhaps one of the most interesting people to ever be on a ship in the history of the world. Like,
I don't get on boats too often, but when I do.
I get on. So, what these do is they dramatize the books and the show. You can watch the show on A&E. It's really good. It's like DVD sets. We really like it. But they dramatize the management of a ship. Like the rigging, and they have to turn and tack, and they're fighting with other ships. It's crazy drama. It's just like all these things we just talked about.
Right, and they do all the same stuff, like yelling, like, move the topsail, watch out for the forecastle.
The mizzenmast, the lieutenant, that they were tacking on the port side of the leeward yarboard.
Right, and the thing is, you watch it, and you feel like you know about boats, and you get really interested in boats. You're like, yeah, maybe I'll do that semester at sea, yeah.
So, this is the point I'm making. There's a scene in one of the books where C.S. Forrester, to do an interesting thing in literature, wrote about a game of whist. Whist is a card game that is it's like playing euchre. I don't know if anyone even knows how to play euchre, with a full deck of cards instead of a euchre deck. Whist is pretty much like that. So he writes the game of whist that Horatio Hornblower, the captain, is playing. And he's playing it for money he needs to buy a room at the inn that night.
Otherwise he's sleeping on the street.
And he dramatizes it the same way he dramatizes the ship battles. You don't need to know anything about the rules of Whist. But you read this and you are on the edge of your seat, trick by trick in this game of cards. You don't even know the rules.
And you really want to play Whist, and next thing you know, you're on the Wikipedia page for Whist. And you got to get the cards from the drugstore.
But if you read that, you think you knew what happened. You were on the edge of the seat, you were excited the whole time. Take anyone who read one of these scenes, a ship battle or the Whist game, and ask them to tell you what happened.
What's the forecastle?
This sentence. What happened in that sentence? Tell me anything the ship actually did in the last 10 pages you just read.
Fired a cannon once.
The key to these shows is that they do not require knowledge of the subject, and they fill you with an inflated sense of your understanding of the subject. You watch Initial D, you legit think that you could probably do that. And you'll be in your car, and you see a rain gutter, and you're like, I bet I can hook my tires in that and do that thing Takumi did.
Oh!
But you don't. You don't know anything about what a mizzen-mast is. It's the one in the middle. You don't know what a topsail is and when you furl them or what furling them even means. Does that mean pull them down or put them up? You don't know.
You would guess that unfurl would be to let them go, but that's just guessing, right? So
You don't really know.
And the thing is, okay, so you figured out unfurling is when you let them open them up, and furling is when you close them. When do you want to do one and when do you want to do the other?
When there's less wind.
I don't know.
But yet, they're able to make the drama come out in a thing and you don't even know what the thing is. So, you know, these are super popular in Japan, these kinds of things. This is a golf manga. This dramatizes golf. That is a demon spirit rabbit that teaches this guy golf. Now, this is written by that man.
Happy dude.
Does anyone know who that man is? That man.
No one knows?
Really? That man also did all of these things. That man is Kazuo Koike. That man is famous for writing crazy manga. If you have read Lone Wolf and Cub, that is the tamest thing he has ever written, aside from that golf manga.
Golf manga isn't even that tame. There's this part where, you know, that he's teaching you, he's like, how good are you at golf? And he's like, all right, we're going to test you. You're going to play against this guy. This guy's not going to hit the golf ball with a club. He is an Olympic shot put gold medalist. He's going to shot put the golf ball. Let's see if you can beat him. Right? It's like, because, you know, you should have better control over that club than he has over his hand. Because it's a part of his body. The club should be like a part of your body. And it's really dramatic because it's really close. And it's really easy. You don't have to putt. You can sort of toss the ball to the hole. You can do that mini golf in a second. Oh!
Now something, you know, you're an anime con. The anime and manga industry in the US, it's not looking so good right now. There's not a lot of industry presence anymore. Drops of God was actually put into a couple of wine magazines and things. And I think that is a great way to bring, we gotta, all this manga, this will never be released legit in the US. But what if they took one of those golf magazines that everyone's 40-year-old dad reads because he plays golf?
Sitting on the stool in every barbershop and dentist office.
And they just put a couple of pages from this golf manga that super dramatizes golf in that. I think suddenly there'd be a lot of interest in golf manga. But why are these so popular in Japan? Well, think about the ideal, you know, you want to have the awesome job. You want to be like the crazy Wall Street guy, the super successful doctor.
Yeah, Japanese people are sort of obsessed with, you know, you got to get a career, a really good career, a big stable company. You got to move up the ladder, and you got to, you can't go against the grain. You got to, you know, do what you're supposed to and make a lot of money and work hard all day and all night, you know, and that's what you're supposed to do when you're a Japanese person. So, living in Japan. So they sort of fantasize about, oh man, what if I, instead of, you know, doing this boring corporate stuff that everyone does that I'm supposed to do that I can never bring myself to not do, I was a race car driver instead.
Now the other tack they'll do
Or a boxer.
is they'll glorify a very mundane or kind of thing that wouldn't otherwise normally be dramatized. Project X, Cup Noodle, is the manga story of how Cup Noodle got made, and that is crazy dramatic and epic.
I think it was actually a TV show, Project X, which was sort of like the story of how a business gets made. And it was like they did Cup Noodle and 7-Eleven and a bunch of other stuff. And they made some mangas out of some of those TV episodes. And they're pretty epic because it's like, oh my god, this tells the story. And this is the big Project X. Project X is 100% true, right? And it's like, okay, Cup Noodle. How do we sell this cup noodle? People aren't going to buy it unless they think it's like, you know, we just put noodles in there. People are going to be like, eh.
What if we put shrimp in there?
Then it would seem like it was a really good deal with a low price, but you're actually getting real shrimp. Oh, snap.
All right, so we fast forward. the shrimp turns black when we fry it. Shit, what do we do? So one guy,
it's a true story, and it's in the manga, and it's absolutely true. They had to get shrimp in there. They didn't want to give up the shrimp, but they had to freeze dry a shrimp. But they wanted to make it look expensive, and they tried literally every shrimp, almost every shrimp known to man, thousands and thousands of shrimp. They freeze dried them to find one that would retain its color and wouldn't turn like gray or black when it got freeze dried and then reheated. And they finally found one. It's those crazy cocktail shrimps that are like bright red, you know, and that's what's in Cup Noodle. But they're like, yes. Finally, we found a shrimp that works in the cup. And it's like, it shows you all these scenes just like these of the guy sitting there painlessly freeze drying and you're like, and he's just freeze drying shrimp.
One of them turns pink, he's like, yes, he picks it up and it crumbles to dust. So, all this manga we're not talking about. I'm not going to say it's good, but this is a different kind of manga. But one thing you'll notice is that many of these have a similar art style and are drawn by a man who drew this manga. Ryuichi Ikigami. This is another super out of print, hard to get manga.
Just as hard to get as Eagle. Sorry.
You'll read this, and when you're done, you will want to straight up join the Yakuza or the Mafia and try to start a revolution in your country.
So what this is about, right, is it's sort of year 2000-ish in Japan, and there's these two guys who survived Cambodia. They're badasses. And they get back to Japan and they decide, we have to fix this country.
Yes, look at this country.
Look at this, you know, because they survived Cambodia, so they get to Japan and they're like, look at this, this is horrible, this country is disgusting. I know what we'll do. One of us will become a Yakuza, one of us will become a politician, and we'll team up and we'll fix everything.
You take the high road, I'll take the low road. This is awesome seinen manga, and it does to that sort of like deep political maneuvering what all these other things did. The problem is, you should not actually do this. This is a thing that you actually cannot do.
You could.
Yeah. But you will see matters like this, and you will really, really want to go to the Yakuza, stab your hand with a knife to prove your worth, and then 20 years later, take over the deal. So where are we going with all this? You should watch all these weird anime, because nobody knew about most of these manga. How many of you knew about, Nodame Cantabile and watched it?
Not many.
Not enough. Nodame Cantabile is just as dramatic as Initial D. How many of you want to know more about Initial D now?
Even with those nasty lips, really? What the hell's wrong with
How many of you...
Just listen to the Eurobeat music and don't worry about it.
How many of you would have watched Initial D on your own if we had not shown this to you just now? Okay.
That's enough questions.
So I do have another clip for you, but I guess we'll pause because we have the room. We're doing the next panel in a half hour anyway. So we have the room anyway. So if you want to escape the room before we show some extra clips and hang out for a half hour, and then start the next panel, which is Diamonds of the Rough, the list of anime you've never seen that you really should watch.
You've probably seen some.
You may have, you may not have. I don't think any of them have seen some of the ones toward the end of this thing. But if you must go, or you want to get out, now's your chance. We will have videos from PAX and from all of our other cons on these flyers. If you do not want to pick up a flyer, that QR code will actually take you to the website, which will have a link to these slides from this very panel. So if you go to those slides, you can see.
I'm terribly sorry, okay?